Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner Circle Sports Betting Podcast. It's Tuesday, January 24th. It's time for Mr. Sean Higgs, we're going to be talking college basketball. We're going to have two free picks for you on Wednesday's card, and they come into games between the UConn Huskies and the Xavier Musketeers, and the San Diego State Aztecs and the Utah State Aggies. Before we get to that, without further ado, Mr. Sean Higgs, how are you, my friend?
Pretty good. It's getting to the NFL winding down. So for me, it's a bulk of college hoops, and here we go. Nice matchup for a Wednesday midweek.
Yeah, I talked yesterday with Doug Upstone on this show, and I indicated at that time, because I'm transparent like everybody on this show has been. Had a horrible weekend, Sean. Went 3-10 between college basketball and the NFL. And quite frankly, with the exception of one game on the games I lost, I was just completely off. And it goes back to some guys will say, well, I'd rather lose a game by 30 than to lose by a half a point. But, there's a lot of truth to that. But anyway, I bounced back yesterday, thankfully, with a 4-0 day. Two college basketball winners. I had the New Mexico game with Nevada over 148.5. That now makes me 18-7 with my last 25 college basketball totals, including 12-3 with my last 15 this year. So certainly cut into some of those losses. And I was on a terrific run going into that weekend. And it seemed to all come tumbling down in one day, but 2 days, but bounce right back, buddy. How about yourself?
Yeah, I had a bad. I think I went 6-12 college hoops on Saturday. Winner on Sunday. Okay, I went 3-0 yesterday college basketball. So I bounced back there. NFL, I had Dallas and Cincinnati. Not too bad
Good
there.
for you.
I hit a hockey. I had a puck line on a hockey game I came in with, so I got a little over there. It's all right. It's what, Ross. It's just I just grind them out. I try not to worry about it. We're gonna have a bad day, and again, I do the midday money show, and sometimes people come in and they're like, "Oh man, tough day yesterday." I'm like, "No, it's all right. We just move on. We can't. Not sit and dwell on it. You can't be like."
Well,
that's not the way it is.
It's
you
human
have to
nature.
be able to put it behind you and move on because there's a whole day of games tomorrow. I'm not going to soak over a game.
You can't. I always equate it to this. If a doctor has two patients, one in one room and one in the other, adjoining rooms, not adjoining, but side by side. And he goes into the first patient, and the guy has a heart attack and dies on him. If he takes that emotion from that loss into the next room, his judgment and his focus are going to be completely off, and it's going to affect how he evaluates that client and any decisions he makes in that regard. Now, having said that, that's life and death. We're not dealing with life and death here, but my correlation is it's the same thing in our industry. You have a horrible day, a horrible weekend, you have to let it go. Look, if we weren't unhappy when that happens, we wouldn't be human, okay? But by the same token, like Sean just said, you can't carry that over to the next day.
No.
Because like they say in sports, you don't want one loss to turn into two. In other words, you lose a rivalry game. Now you go to play a team that you should beat, but because you're still down and out about losing the rivalry game, you end up losing a game that in ordinary circumstances you would have won. Yeah, it's the same scenario. It really is. Anyway, we got free picks in college basketball. We're going to start with Sean. He's going to take a look at the UConn Huskies, who will be entertaining Xavier. UConn -8 seems like a heavy number to me. And when that happens, I usually side with the favorite. But I was going to say, let me ask Sean what he thinks.
Yeah, again, a 7 opener on this, and it's a low, the old lower ranked, 20 UConn, 12 Xavier. And we saw this with Duke the other day. We did Duke, North Carolina. Like, why is Duke a big fave here? They're not even ranked. Carolina was in the teens and something, and it was a close game. I'm trying to figure out now if this was UConn a few games ago when they were rolling along, it'd be one thing. This is a team that's lost 5 or 6.
Yeah,
and their one win's over Butler, who's 11 and 10 and whatever they are, 2 and 5 on. I can't justify laying the 7 here. As much as I want to say UConn looks good, right? And initially I'm like, wow, could be 7.5, 8. I'm like, ooh, they're begging you to take Xavier.
Yeah.
Xavier just beat them by 11, and they're still in a funk. I mean, okay, you beat Butler by 30. Are you out of it by beating Butler? Again, it's a revenge spot. You lost by 11, and then you look to last year, UConn beat them by 11 at home, and then, so it's kind of like a back and forth kind of series. I get that. But we're not talking, 2s, 3s, and 4s here. Now we're talking 7s, which means UConn's got to be up by double digits most of the game to hold on to a run, right? I mean, I'm going to take the 7 here. As much as I want to take listen, at 8, I'd be like, I might go UConn. 7, it's still, you need a run here. Is UConn going to be up by 15 the entire game and hold on to win by 10? Because that crazy 3 at the end is going to give you a push or bite you in the butt. Whatever's going to happen. That's going to, Xavier's still a good team here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the 7. If it was a little, and this is a tough one, Ross. I'm not even sure if I'm going to bet it yet. This is a tricky one for me, but my first inclination is leaning into the dog here, just on the way they played last week and the way UConn's been playing down the stretch. I mean, they lost 5 or 6 and bad losses. I mean, you're losing by 1, but then you're losing by 9. 6 on the road. Providence got you by a dozen. The Xavier lost at the end of the year. So it has not been a good run by UConn. This is not November early UConn right now.
No,
I don't care. And again, we talk about putting a loss behind us. That's Butler. Butler is not a ranked team or a good team like Xavier. I got to take the 7.
Yeah. Okay. So Xavier plus 7 at UConn, and it all makes sense to me. You know what I like to say about teams like Xavier when they're an underdog, this sizable of an underdog, and in a matchup like this with 2 ranked teams, a 7-point spread, 8-point spread, whatever it may be, is a sizable margin for 2 ranked teams. And the thing is that if this game was on the road at Xavier, they're telling us it would be a pick'em game, basically. If not UConn being a small favorite. So a little bit tricky in that regard. But what I like to say about teams like Xavier before I got off track was they're a high scoring team.
Yes.
And I equate it to a boxer. Okay. When you have a guy that's 25-0 and he's in a championship fight, 25-0 with only 17 or say like 10 KOs, somebody who's just really a real good boxer, but lacks the punching power. And they're facing a guy with 5 losses, but 90% of his wins are by knockouts. You always have that puncher's chance. And when you have a team that could score at the rate that Xavier does and is good offensively, as an underdog, you have that puncher's chance, So, so Sean likes Xavier plus the 7 on the road at UConn, and you might be able to find an 8. As a matter of fact, when I looked just before I went on air, DraftKings still has this game at 8. So check your lines, shop your lines. And again, folks, we're recording 24 hours in advance. So depending on when you view this video, these lines are subject to change. All right, I'm going to take a look at Utah State and San Diego State. And boy, people better wake up to the fact that this is a pretty good Mountain West Conference, better than it has been in quite some time. As a matter of fact, these 2 teams, Sean, if the season were to end today, you'd be hard pressed to leave them out of the NCAA tournament, regardless if they won the conference tournament or not. They certainly would be in line for an at-large bid right now is the key 2 words there. Utah State is 16-4, 5-2 in the Mountain West. San Diego State, 15-4 and 6-1 in the Mountain West. Right now, the Aztecs are a 6.5-point favorite. And this is another similar scenario to what we just discussed, being both teams have comparable overall records and comparable conference records as well. And yet we got one team that's a 6.5-point favorite in the contest. Utah State shoots the ball from 3-point land extremely well. They're number 1 in the country at 41.5%. However, on the flip side of that equation, they're horrible in defending the 3. They rank number 315 in the country in 3-point defense. Opponents have shot just a shy under 37% from 3-point land against them. Now, this is a Utah State team that lost their last 2 on the road, including, and that included 15-point defeat at Nevada and a 23-point defeat at Boise State. Good teams in their own right, but it's worth mentioning because Utah State hasn't lost at home this year. Their only losses have been in true road games or neutral site games. And those last 2 losses against quality conference opponents, they were blown out. San Diego State is a very balanced team. I mean, you look at KenPom, number 50 in offensive efficiency, number 27 in defensive efficiency. Well, that might not seem impressive, but there's 363 teams playing Division I basketball right now, And the other thing, too, is San Diego State, and why we're seeing the line where it is, in my estimation, is their strength of schedule. I mean, they played a brutal non-conference schedule. And right now, in terms of strength of schedule, San Diego State is number 24 in the land in terms of strength of schedule played. That's extremely, extremely high for a Mountain West Conference team, right? Yeah, that's what I thought.
And you throw out they only got 4 losses.
Yeah.
And, when St. Mary's loss was close. I mean,
they lose in New Mexico at home. Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, New Mexico's a good team.
It's a real good team. So they're 9-1 at home. That was their only loss at home. And this team's got a lot of experience and a lot of depth. Number 19 in terms of experience level. And in terms of depth, 36.2% of minutes played are by players that are coming off the bench for San Diego State. So that combination with the fact that Utah State ranks number 300 in that category, where only 26% of their minutes played are from bench players, it equates to me to a team that could be worn down by the second half, especially the way San Diego State plays that aggressive style of defense, pressures the ball, doesn't give you a lot of space. I'm going to go with San Diego State here, minus a 6.5 over Utah State. I think Utah State's road woes continue here in this contest against a quality opponent like San Diego State on their home floor. Any comments?
I agree. And first glance to look at it, because I didn't know, we talked about before the game who you're picking. So I'm just looking over their schedule and stuff here. Yeah, you lose by 15 in Nevada, 20 at Boise, and here comes a team as good or better, probably a little better than those 2 teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to knock.
Even if they're on par. Even if they're on par, right?
Yeah, I mean, these are you're not not that you don't show up. This is college basketball.
Yeah,
a lot of teams show up on the road, they get mauled. We talked about UConn on the road, right? 9 years without a win on the road. I mean, in conference play, it happens. So these guys get manhandled by a similar kind of team. Okay, when they come back to Aggie land, it could be different in Ogden or wherever they play out in Utah. There,
yeah.
But I'm going to agree with you on this one. I like it. This is a spot. A little different than the Xavier, Connecticut matchup with the bigger line. This one, I'm going with the fave with you.
Yeah, San Diego State, they built that new arena a few years back, and they pack it on a consistent basis. So very underrated head coach for San Diego State as well, and Brian Dutcher.
Yeah. And these guys, Ross, remember back in the day when these guys started getting good, they were all defense. Remember their games were always like 55-48. Like all defense. Guys can't shoot a lick. You're like, oh my goodness, how are we covering this? We can't score. Now they're like an offensive club putting up 70 something a game, not putting up a bunch of,
Yeah, they're number 50 in offensive efficiency and somewhere around 20 in defensive efficiency. Still better rated defensively, but as pertaining to what you just said, those past San Diego State teams, and they were some good ones. It was all about their defense. Yes, it was how stingy they were on the defensive end of the floor. And when you play that great a defense and hold teams in the 50s, you're going to have a relatively very good chance of coming away with a win. So in any event, there it is. San Diego State minus 6.5 over Utah State, and Xavier plus the 8. We're going to give Sean plus the 8 because that's what it is at DraftKings right now on the road at UConn. Sean, take it away in terms of telling the people what you may have coming up, what's been going on, a little bit about your podcast as well.
Yep. So coming up, Championship Sunday, AFC, NFC games posted. We're loaded up there. You can check out Midday Money 7 days a week. A lot of free picks in there. And I have a special deal on the Midday Money link. So if you want to get a weekly pass, it's through the Picks and Parlays winning free picks. It's $31.20 for 7 days. And listen, my 7 days, when you have a lot of college basketball, I mean, you can easily get about 90 games for a week between, all sports. So.
And I was going to
say, action.
It amounts to a dime a play, but it's not the dime we talk about in sports betting, 1,000. It's an actual dime. The coin.
Yes, definitely worth it. And people like to bet. If you want to bet it, if you could, you're small, wagering because you don't have any discipline. You want to come in. Oh, the thing is though, Ross, you put out like a 3-pack. People are like, oh, I had your 3 games last night, and they all won. I had a parlay. All right, I'm glad I didn't go 2-1. You would have been a loser. I mean, like, what do you? What? Those are the worst. I mean, I'm sure you get stuff like that. Oh, I bet you
all the time. Yeah, it's.
I went 4-1. I lost.
And the most frustrating thing is the people that you could beat your head against the wall trying to explain to them why going 2-1 and not making a profit without being disrespectful is ignorant. Okay. And bookies love you when they only got to beat you on 1 out of 3 games.
Yes.
It just doesn't seem to sink in because everybody wants that low risk, high reward thing. And I believe
I get it. It's fun. You look at the pay, especially now. Like back in the day when me and you used to call, we're calling up on the telephone. We'd have some kind of parlay calculator. You'd go on the phone and be like, all right, 40 for 275 or whatever. They just run down some number to you. It wasn't like you get on your phone or a computer and be like, ooh, $5 gets me $13.85 or something.
Yeah.
You see that and you think it's a lottery ticket.
Yeah. Well, social media is the worst enemy of money management there is in terms of sports betting, because how many times, Sean, it seems like I see something once a day at least on these sports betting forums or sports betting Twitter accounts or even Bleacher Report, where they come out and say there's a copy of a ticket where somebody bet a 10-teamer for $5 and it paid $13,600. Folks, for every one of those, there's probably close to 100,000 more that didn't cash in that. And I'm not exaggerating. So anyway, all right. So I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be with Jesse Schul tomorrow. Later in the day, I'll be with Big Al McMorty going over the conference championship games. But folks, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please take a second to do so. It costs you absolutely nothing. There's no strings attached. And hit that notification bell while you're there. And don't forget to give us a notification bell, because as soon as we publish a video, you'll be notified immediately instead of having to keep coming back and forth to see when the video is up. So in any event, until the next time, for Sean Higgs and Ross Benjamin, we'd like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. Take care and God bless, folks.